Good morning. Good morning. Oh, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. How the devil are you all doing this fine day? Just realised for some reason that's better. I've only been away for a few days and my microphone's gone wonky. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Glad to be back in good old Blighty, wearing my usual hat. Good to have that back. Even though Intermat was great fun, obviously good to be back home again. That being said, this office does feel positively claustrophobic, having spent a week broadcasting from what looked like an aircraft hangar in Paris. Have to say, I do have that kind of Boxing Day feeling now. All that build up to Intermat 2024, and now it's all over. Still, we will always have Paris, and we do also obviously have Hillhead to look forward to. Before we begin with all of that and start to worry about all things Hillhead, I wanted to take a moment to talk about you lot, you people out there. To the untrained eye, there's a lot of those about. To the untrained eye, you are just a bunch of digger drivers and digger enthusiasts. I'd like you to think about this for a second. Our man Steve Williamson, who is in the chat as we speak, wowed the crowds throughout the Intermat 2024 show where he was working with Kinsoffer. Gary Muirhead, who is also in the chat, did precisely the same thing with his beloved steel wrist up in at the Scott plant. Jim Turner, also in the chat, is consulting with a major brand on how they might improve their products. And all things being equal, and I haven't seen Mick in the chat yet, all things being equal, Mick Norton will be in contact with Bobcat later this week to talk about all things telehandler safety related. Now, the term influencer is bandied about far too much these days, and it normally means some pillock dancing in their digger. Here, however, at the Breakfast Show, we have people with true influence. So well done, people. Well done to all of you. Keep up the good work. And incidentally, on the subject of influencers, me and Fred shared a hotel with a bunch of French industry influencers. Nice bunch, very welcoming, very engaging, very young, painfully young, actually. In fact, one of them just joined us. Valentine Machinery has just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for your hospitality while we were over there. But they did make me rethink this whole influencer thing. They spent part of the show wandering about together, taking math selfies in front of various machines, and kind of left me wondering, who's that for? How does that help anyone? What is the point? If you run a digger channel, surely people sign up to see diggers, not to see you arsing about with your mates. No one cares about your travel woes, what you had for breakfast, or what merch you picked up along the way. And incidentally, I picked up none. No merch whatsoever. So, in terms of influencers, I've already removed some so-called influencers from my Facebook, LinkedIn, Facebook feeds, and I'll be removing more just as soon as I can find the time. Yeah, just one final thing before we get cracking. Today is Monday, so that means there is a new column today. It will come as no great surprise to learn that today's column is all about last week's Intermat exhibition, and you can read about it using the links that I'm about to post in the chat. Bear with me for 1 second while I do precisely that. I need to get used to my buttons again. There we are. It's called Intermat Review. You can go and take a look at that. If you're part of our WhatsApp group, and I know many of you are, no need to hop on over there because you've already seen the link for that. Now, before we hit the button, I'm going to go on over to the chat. I'm going to say good morning to Chris. Morning, Chris, who says, good morning, gang. What's that yellow thing in the sky? I can't possibly imagine. We did glimpse the sun last week, actually. I have to be absolutely honest. Dan Cullen, good to have you back. Glad I can watch again. Wasn't happy with their safety standards. Yes, just to let everybody know, Dan, your man, is actually starting a new job today. So good luck with that. Somebody has just tuned in from Belgium. Not going to attempt to pronounce their name. They're watching from Belgium. Bonjour. Gary did a fantastic job. Yeah, I had every confidence that Gary would do a very good job for Steel Wrist, which is kind of why I suggested that in the first place. I have to say, Steel Wrist, and listen, I'm not being paid to say this, I'm just going to say it out loud. When I went to Hamburg, Steel Wrist took enormously good care of myself and our fellow influencers and content creators and journalists and what have you. We all got stuck because of airline strikes over in Germany, and Steel Wrist came to our rescue. Steel Wrist have also taken enormously good care of Dan Cullen, of Gary Muirhead. Looked after him while he was actually operating. They've sent him away with a big bunch of goodies. Top job, Steel Wrist. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Dan Cullen says, I travel the length of the country. Yes, our friend Dan actually made it all the way up to Scotland, which I failed to do because I was stuck I wasn't stuck, I was thoroughly enjoying France. And Jonathan Duras is with us. Good morning, Mr. Duras. Steve Williamson is applauding possibly my takedown of influencers. Probably. Mick is also in talks with Trit Support Company and how they've been displaying their products. Thank you for that, Jim. I didn't know that. Obviously, that's a slightly off to one side of what I normally concentrate on. Dan Cullen also says, met Stephen Guthrie as well. Fantastic day. Unfortunately, spent 10 hours on the train. I'd quite like that. Have to say, I do quite enjoy a long train journey. There is our friend Footy. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And let's have a look. Distressed? Is that distressed? Or is that depressed? I don't know. Gave me a vest and the digger won't start. Now they just told me I might have to go to get myself to Morton, 2 hours away. It's going to cost me £200 in petrol a week. So they better give me something towards it. Yeah, I totally agree. And there we are. There's Dan Cullen. There's also enjoying the sunshine. The sun is splitting the rocks. That should make life a little bit easier today, everybody. Right. I did say we were going to crack on, and I think it is time that we did that. Have I posted the Intermat review? I have. Yes, I have. So, shall we? Get back into the spirit of using script again. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Monday, the 29th of April. Can you believe April is almost done and dusted? It seems like only a fortnight ago we were worrying about Christmas. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the returning walrus of demolition. In today's show, Volvo offers a glimpse of a possible hydrogen-fueled future, Komatsu's journey to electrification, how Caterpillar's VisionLink is helping a French quarry operator, plus LiuGong's latest is electrifying. But before we get to all that, and I'm sure you'll all be glad to see this back, we have the mystery machine. Before I get to that, I do need to very quickly. Our friend Nick says, did I see something about Dutchy going to the wall, being laid up most of the last week? Well, sorry to hear that, Mick. Get yourself well soon. But yes, Dutchy Demolition became the 7th demolition company to fold in the space of 5 months. Yes, I reported that on Saturday. The absolute truth is, I'd heard this about 3 weeks ago, possibly even 4 weeks ago. Dutchy Demolition is part of the whole Dutchy group, so there's Dutchy Plant Hire and various other bits and pieces as well. And I'd even gone so far as to write the article about the demise of Dutchy Demolition. And I then parked it because all of the news that I was getting coming out of Dutchy Group kind of suggested that Dutchy Demolition was okay, that it would carry on. However, that has proved not to be the case. They have now gone as well. In fact, it sounds like the whole of the Dutchy group, including Dutchy Demolition, have gone. So yes, we have now lost 7 demolition companies in just 5 months. I've been around for quite some time. As far as I'm concerned, that is absolutely unprecedented. We lost a few 2008, 2009 because of the global recession and everything else, but I do not remember anything even remotely like this. Dan Cullen is saying, 2 bank holidays this month. Yes, and I'm taking advantage of one of them. Just to let you know, we've got a fair bit of travel coming up. Not all of it will impact this show, but some of it will. On the 10th of this month, no, the 10th of next month, the 10th of May, I am taking my good lady wife to Italy for a long weekend for our latest wedding anniversary. I know you don't think I know how many years it is, but it is 34. Yes, so we're going to Bergamo in Italy. So we're going from the 10th to the 14th, which does take in a weekend, but we are going to miss a show, possibly two. But I'll keep you posted on that. When are you doing the Saturday show? Well, the Saturday show has become the second Saturday social, but given the fact that we've got the second Saturday I will actually be in Italy, I may have to do it first Saturday, which I think is next week. I think that's next week, or is it the end of this week? Not sure, but it'll be one of those. Graham Footy Williams says, trying to say Digger is dead, not starting, batteries are dead totally. I had to dress all in black today to come here. They gave me a yellow vest and then I get told machine's going today to another job. They can't sort, but third job I've been on. Lunacy. That's unfortunate. What about the guys working at Duchy Demolition? I spoke to one of the former directors at Duchy on Saturday afternoon, actually, and by the sound of things, pretty much all of them have found alternative employment. So there's no good news, but at least they appear to have found some alternative employment. Phil, Midland Plant Spares, has just joined us over on Instagram. I'm going to take a wild guess that Phil is in the business of plant spares, and he's in the Midlands. Morning, Phil. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Our friend Wolf Welder from all the way from the US of A is here as well, saying good morning. And he's also answered our question of the day, but I'll come to that in just a moment because I've already kept you waiting on our mystery machine. So this is the thing. What do you have to work with? Yep. Here's a smidgen, a slice, a soupçon of soupçon. You see, I've lived in France for a week and I speak it like a local. But yes, that is what you've got to work with. If you can identify from that, you will be doing very, very well indeed. But let me take that away because I would like to remind you very quickly. We've already had a couple of answers on this anyway, but I would like to remind you very quickly of our question of the day, which looks like this. Yeah, our question of the day is quite simply, what was your favourite cartoon as a child? I've got loads, but I think if I had to stick with just one cartoon for the rest of my life, Tom and Jerry, the early Tom and Jerry. None of your later nonsense where they were friends. What the hell's that all about? That is the question of the day. What is your favourite childhood cartoon? Now, we have had a few suggestions. I'm going to say very quick good morning to our friend, Mr. Hatcher, who has just joined us. He's got some weather. Is that the sunshine? Are you depressed? I'm not entirely sure what to make from black suns, but that's what we've got. So we've had a few suggestions on our mystery machine, which looks like that. There is Steve Williamson saying, is it a Turkish machine? It is not. Dan Cullen is saying, is it a Kobelco 85 USR? It is not. Dan has also gone for a Sany 145. No, it is none of those things, but that's what you've got to work with. And I tell you what, there's just a smidgen more just to keep you guessing. Let us know. And Steve has just said, is it a cat? It is most definitely not a cat. We'll come back to that. Keep the guesses coming in. I'll show you a little bit more in a moment. But first of all, this. Given that one of the key aims of Intermat 2024 was to focus upon the decarbonisation of the industry, it will probably come as no surprise to learn that electric machines were out in force in Paris. We'll be speaking about those in just a moment. But there was one machine looking even further ahead than that.
Good morning, welcome into Intermat 2024, welcome into the Volvo stand, and we want to present this morning this prototype, because the color is green, It is HX04. It is an electric machine, but to have the electricity on this machine, we use a fuel cell with hydrogen. It is a prototype, and the target of this prototype is to define the strong and the weak point of this solution. It is an articulated hauler. Don't forget, Volvo, it is the leader of the articulated hauler everywhere on the world. It is so you have hydrogen tank, you have a fuel cell. After the fuel cell, you have electricity. And after that, you have one electric motor on each axle. So you have 3 electric motors.
Yeah, that's possibly the future. Possibly. Just to let you know, I did a lot of thinking while I was walking the length and breadth of Paris last week. And I've written a new column about construction equipment users' failure to engage with electric machines and how that could cost us all dearly in terms of the environment. You may not agree with it. In fact, I know some of you will fundamentally disagree, but that's what debate is all about. That column will drop on Wednesday. We can argue about it afterwards. So we've had lots. I'm going to go over to this one very quickly. Mick says, enjoy Bergamo, totally recommend St. Ambroise and the Parletti to eat. You will be happy with the other half. Yeah, we've got lots of recommendations. In actual fact, I'm going back to a restaurant that I've been to once before, right up the very top of the old town. We are definitely going to check that out, but I've been to Bergamo a couple of times. I kind of know my way around, but my wife's first time, so looking forward to showing her around. Now, let me remove that, because I'm going to throw this back up very quickly. We've had some more guesses on our mystery machine. What we got? Jim Turner is saying, is it a Sunward 9-tonner? It is not, but you're getting closer. Dan Cullen, Kobelco 140, it is not. Steve Williams has also picked up on the fact that it may well be a Sunward. You're in the right region. Our friend Jonathan Duras is in even closer. Not right, but he's closer. It is not an SK140. It is not an SK141 SRL-7 either. Is it an SW60, says Steve Williamson? It is not, but you're close. Gary Muirhead, JCB 802.5 ZTS. It is none. None of those things, and it is most definitely not. Most definitely not a Kobelco SK350LC -11E. It is none of those things. I can tell you, whoever's said it is a Sunward, you're on the right path. And I'm just going to throw this up. I see someone's just sent you 200 stars. I don't get a notification of that on here. But just to let people know, you can... don't, because you're all friends of the family, as it were. Don't do this, but you can actually send us stars. They go to Diggers and Dozers, so in actual fact, they actually go to my son's back pocket. But you can send us stars, which basically sends a financial contribution to this channel. Somebody apparently has just donated 200. I don't know what that equates to in terms of monetary value, but whoever did that, thank you. On behalf of my son, who will probably spend it wisely or unwisely. There's a new lens coming, so it's probably unwisely. Let's have a look. Steve Williamson is saying, is it a 160? It is not, but you're remarkably close. Keep the guesses coming in. That's what you're working with. I tell you what, let me show you. That doesn't help at all, but that's what you're working with. Jonathan Duras is going for the Sunward 135. I need to show you how close you are. That close. That close there. Still not right, but you're getting very, very close. So keep those guesses coming in. We need to do a bit of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
And I can tell you we have a winner. Jim Turner has gone. I'm sure this is not actually the way they describe it, but Sunward 155 short-assed machine. That's not how they describe it in the spec sheet, but you're absolutely on the money with the guess. Let's just to prove the point. There it is. That, in actual fact, that is called a Sunward SWE 155F. And there is Steve Williamson. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think that actually arrived as I was announcing what it was. So, yes, congratulations, gentlemen. Our friend Dan Cullen was very close on 2 occasions, but it was our friend Jim Turner who actually got the right answer. Yes, SW155, SWE 155F. I don't know what the F stands for either. So let me take that off the screen because we can now crack on with what we need to do. I was just speaking about all things electric, and I'm going to return to that theme a few times in this episode. A bit later on in the show, we're going to show you what the bright sparks at LiuGong have been up to. But first, we're going to take a look at Komatsu's journey to electrification.
At Intermat, Komatsu is showcasing several electric products available today and in the near future. Komatsu has set itself the goal of reducing by 50% its CO2 emissions by 2030 and achieve carbon neutral by 2050. These electric machines will help customers to these goals together.
90% of the CO2 footprint for construction machines is caused in the product use. So there's no doubt we have to do something about powertrains and how our machines are being used. And electrification is one of the many ways we can take in order to reduce the CO2 footprint in product use.
By presenting the demonstration inside the hall of the exhibition space, we immediately emphasize 2 major advantages of electrification. There are no emissions from the machine, and it significantly reduces engine noise. Safety on the construction site is immediately enhanced.
This is a new version of our PC33. This time we show it here, first time to public with the cabin version. We show 2 prototypes, machines which we're going to introduce in the course of next year. The PC20 and in the back of myself, the PC26. Compact machines, very versatile, easy to transport. This is the PC138 battery electric machine, really perfect for the urbanized areas with its short tail and with its battery capacity sufficient for a full day of work. Here we have our PC210 LCE, 24-ton crawler excavator. This is the biggest class worldwide for crawler excavators. The machine has sufficient battery capacity to work for 9 hours a day of work.
These products represent just a glimpse into Komatsu's ongoing efforts to evolutionize the industry together with our customers with sustainable solutions.
Going to carbon neutrality is a job for everybody. Yeah? It's not only the manufacturer, it's also the customer, it's a society which has to do it. Every technology in construction business which is carbon neutral is expensive, no matter which way you go. If you go for hydrogen or if you go for battery electric, it has its upsides and its downsides, but anyway it will cost us all quite some amount of money.
By prioritizing innovation and collaboration, we aim to pave the way towards a cleaner, greener future for generations to come. Join us at Intermat as we embark on this journey together.
Yeah, loads to cover from that. I have to say, I watched the electric machine demonstration several times on the Komatsu stand, and I was impressed each time. Holding the demo inside just proved the whole point of electric. No nasty exhaust emissions to choke the audience, no noise emissions to upset the neighbours. Despite that, our friend Mick says, love Komatsu, but for the life of me, I'm still very unsure of all this electric stuff. I've already mentioned this, and I'm going to good morning, Tristan Mays, by the way, over on Instagram. I am going to go banging on about this. I have had a lot of time to think about electric. I've had a lot of time to talk about electric with certain people at the show. And I am probably more of a convert now than I was before, for many, many reasons. When you, this is all in the column, so I don't want to give too much away, but when I think about all of the compromises and the sacrifices each of us is making to hopefully safeguard the environment and safeguard the planet, and yet when it gets to construction equipment users, they are refusing to compromise. So, I have to segregate my waste. I have to, I try as best I can to limit my mileage. I think twice about traveling by plane. I've got a hybrid car and all of the things, okay? When you think about the cities of the world, we've got changes to the built environment. So we're trying not to knock down old buildings to replace them with new. We're trying to encourage the use of public transport. We're putting into place ultra low emission zones, ULEZs, all of those things. So the whole world pretty much is making sacrifices and compromises. And then we get to the thing that Dan Cullen is saying, but is that 9 hours in light work with no heater or electrics on? So think about this. Just think about this for a moment. There is a very real possibility that there will be curbs placed upon international travel. We are redrawing the landscape of our cities and our urban areas to be more environmentally sensitive, to be more sustainable. And yet, if you use construction equipment, taking an hour to put enough juice in your machine to see you through the afternoon is a compromise too far. How does that make any sense? And again, this is in the article, I fully understand if you were in the market for a new mobile phone, let's say you are like me, you're an iPhone or an Apple fan. So you've got your eye on the brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. But you know that a week next Friday, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is coming out. The temptation obviously would be to sit on your hands for another week and then go and get the very latest. But would you get the very latest if it was completely unproven technology and if you didn't know how much it was going to cost you? Would you do that? Because we seem to be pinning our hopes on this hydrogen future. Even if JCB spat out a JCB hydrogen backhoe loader tomorrow afternoon, how in God's name are you going to fuel it? I think we're using it as an excuse. I think the timing is bad, but I think we're using it as an excuse, personally. Watch out, please, watch out for that article. I want to go back to, I'm going to say good morning to Andy Hare, who is with us in mind, body and spirit. Dan Cullen also says Komatsu's stand at Scott plant was awesome. Friendly guys too. Yeah, the guys at Komatsu could not have been more helpful, and you'll be seeing lots and lots of Komatsu stuff because we did get to spend quite a bit of time with those guys. So watch out for that. Steve says, did you see the Sani show? What a lot of work went into that. I recorded it all in panoramic style. Could send it to Fred. Please do. We didn't get to see the Sani show, mainly because we were on the payroll of some manufacturers there, and they weren't one of them. No, that's not actually how we work, but we ended up spending so much time with the likes of Komatsu, Bobcat, Liebherr, Volvo, and those kind of people. We didn't get to see everybody, and one of those that we missed was most definitely Sani. Steve Williams says, I'm for electric. When it's ready to last 12 hours, I'm there. Steve, listen, you are behind the levers. And I'm not thinking necessarily of your machine, although I'm sure there is a degree of that. But think about the machines on your site as you're looking, assuming you're at work. Look out the window now and look at the machines. How many of them are idling at the moment? How many of them are only pressed into action every hour, every other hour? You know, your dumpers, your dump trucks, that kind of thing. How many times are you using those machines? Think about that, because as it stands at the moment, you know, particularly if you've got a diesel machine and it's idling, that is costing money, it's costing the environment. If you are using an electric machine, you step off it, that stops. So there's no charge being used, the battery is not being diminished in any way, shape or form. That machine is good to go. And I have genuinely seen documentary proof of this stuff. You go and speak to JCB and their LiuGong team. You know, they're talking about site dumpers that are doing 2 and 3 hours work a day. Why do you need 9 hours charge? Why do you need 12 hours charge? They're not using that. I think it's a misnomer. And there's Steve saying 100%. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to throw over to Tristan Mays, who says it's not all countries that are doing all they can to recycle and be sustainable. I've been to countries that really don't care and are massive polluters. The UK are very good at recycling and being sustainable, he says, all of which is true. But that's Is that not like saying, some people stab other people, so all the time they're stabbing other people? No, that's a bad analogy. Let's take a step back. Is it not our job? We all live on this lump of rock that's floating around in space. Is it not our job to do our best for it, regardless if some others don't? It's like saying, you see somebody throw a chocolate bar wrapper onto the street outside your house. Do you start doing that, or do you still stick to putting stuff in the bin? 75% of Crane's work is to keep the operator warm and charge the operator's phone. Yeah. And also, think about this, and I don't know how this equates. I'm sure it will vary from machine to machine. But I did see a stat on cars, and I wish I could remember exactly where I'd found it. But it was something like 40 or 50% of the energy used by a car is used to move the car. It may have even been 80%. 80% of the energy used by a car is used just to move the car. Not you, not your luggage, not your children or your wife. It's used to move the car. That is incredibly, incredibly inefficient, and it needs to end. Let's have a look. There is Mick Norton, who has just joined us. Dan Cullen says, how come the UK is pushing all this carbon bollocks, yet we are a minority, and you have bigger nations not giving two Fs? As a nation, we are a nation of rule followers. We do like to follow a rule. But is that not where you show leadership? Is that not where you say, well, never mind the fact that China are spewing emissions into the atmosphere, we're going to do the right thing? Is that not a good thing, to do the right thing? Steve says, UK don't realise how far we are behind everyone else. You don't see it till you travel about. Trams that are electric and driverless. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we've got driverless trains over in our friend Mick's part of the world, Docklands Light Railway. Electric, driverless. It does work. It can work. As I say, why is it that individual people, businesses, cities, nations are willing to make a compromise and a sacrifice, but anyone involved in using construction equipment says, oh no, we can't compromise? Why? Why can't you? Change the rules. Change the rules. Instead of insisting that your operators take their lunch, have a pee or whatever in the space of about 10 minutes before getting back to work, give them an hour and a half. Make them work an hour afterwards, maybe. So, rather than packing up at 5, they finish at 6, but they get paid for their break. We go on a little bit longer. We make that known to those that are actually buying their services in the first place. And that way you've got enough juice in your machine to get you through the afternoon. How hard could it possibly be? Ken Hatcher says, I've looked at electric. It's not going to work. It will on a small scale, but never on a big machine. I don't think anyone's proposing a big machine. I mean, with both Komatsu and Volvo, both Komatsu and Volvo are up to 20 tons. I don't honestly see it going much further than that. I really don't. But below that, or below 10 tons, why the hell not? It's there. Bearing in mind, JCB have had electric mini excavators for, blimey, how long has it been? 6 years, 7 years? It's proven technology. We know it works, and we know that we don't need all of that power that we're currently using. Tristan says, I'm guilty of not doing the most as I drive a 6.6 litre V8 Chevy, and it sounds way better than any electric car or truck. Not necessarily the point. James Howard, 1672. I wonder if that is the James Howard with whom I shared my aircraft hangar last week. I hope it is. Good morning, James. Thank you for all your help last week. If it is you, if it's a different James Howard, you won't know what I'm talking about. But if it is that James Howard, you will know precisely what I'm talking about. Joe Brown Construction Company just joined us all the way from the US of A. And Ken Hatcher, there you are, Ken Hatcher, just gone petrol hybrid plug-in. There you are. And it is that James Howard. Good morning, James. Thank you very much, as I say, for all your help last week. Thank you for supplying me with some very, very good internet. Very, very grateful for that. I have to say, it was very nice to. I wasn't part of the team. That would be overstating it. But I was sharing an office with probably half a dozen people from Route 1 Publishing last week. And normally I'm sat in this office entirely on my own. It's quite nice. Wild horses would not get me back into magazine publishing because those guys work way harder than I'd be willing to do. But it was quite nice to feel part of the team. Footy says, how did the ladder go down? Anyone say anything about it over there? It's interesting. Nobody that I spoke to, and let me think, who did I speak to? I spoke to Komatsu, Hitachi, Liebherr, Volvo, Cabelco. There may have been one other, but I spoke to a lot of the major excavator manufacturers while I was over there, and the reaction was always the same. It wasn't like I'd lifted the veil from their eyes and what, steps are a problem? I did not realise. None of them said that, and all of them, when I told them what you'd done with the trampoline ladder, all of them kind of nodded like, I'm going to take that away with me. Whether that will come to anything, we shall see. Tristan May says hydrogen is definitely the way forward. Electric vehicles are a stopgap till we sort the hydrogen technology. Yes. But bearing in mind what's on the line here, it was end of July last year, the Secretary General of the United Nations gave a news briefing in which he said the age of global warming was over. We are now at boiling point. That's a pretty stark warning. Particularly if you've got children and grandchildren, as I have, and I'm sure some of you have got as well. That is a very, very stark warning from somebody very high up, very influential, obviously intelligent and well-read and everything else. So why are we still sitting on our hands? I mean, how far away do you reckon hydrogen is? A decade? More? So are we going to accept the fact that we're going to keep kicking the living shit out of the environment for another decade or more because we're not particularly happy about electric, or should we do something now? I'm not good at analogies this morning. My brain is not fully functioning because I've only had one cup of coffee. But that's like seeing a house fire and you stood there with a bucket of water in your hand and saying, yeah, well, I could help, but I'm not going to because the fire truck will be along in a day or two. This is a thing that's now. It's happening now. Why are we not embracing it? That's what I'd like to know. Steve is going to send me the Sani demonstration, or send it to Fred. Thank you very much indeed. Were Hudig at Intermat, and if so, did you get some footage? I didn't see them. Steve is more of a Hudig fan, but I certainly didn't spot them. Tristan Mays, back on the subject of hydrogen, 10 years at least. Is it the oil companies that are holding everything back, though? I don't think they're helping, but I do genuinely think there is an innate conservatism, I think, within construction equipment circles. But I don't think we can afford that conservatism. You know, why? Bearing in mind, you know, we have major plant hirers, and I'm not going to single any of them out, but we have major plant hirers who regularly talk about their commitment to the environment and their commitment to this and their commitment to that, and how they are, you know, on the road to zero emissions and the net zero and all the old bollocks that goes with it. So why aren't they putting their money where their mouth is and actually investing in that technology and making it a genuine option for those that need it? And bearing in mind, 85% of all the plant that is sold in the UK goes into rental operations. So imagine if you would, you are a rental hire desk operative. I don't know what they're called, but you receive a call and somebody says, I need an excavator. I need a mini excavator. Okay, sir, like, what are you going to use it for? Well, you've got a bit of digging in the back garden. It's only going to be a couple of hours for 2 or 3 days. Not a big deal. Take our electric, because it won't upset your neighbours. You won't have to. You can charge it from the mains. Absolutely fine. If, however, somebody phones up and says, I need an excavator, and it's going to be working flat out 12 hours a day, loading trucks, and there's a big fleet of them and they need constant feeding, give them the diesel. Give them the option. Why are we not having options? The driver is going to freeze if you switch off the engine. Is that enough? Is that enough of an excuse to not safeguard the environment? And that's a genuine question. If you are looking at the threat to more than 7 billion people, and you weigh that against it's going to be a bit chilly, or we need to find another way of putting heating into the cab of a digger. Personally, I'm going with the 7 billion. And bearing in mind, we have alternative forms of heating. Anyone that goes camping or has done anything in the van life sphere, you can heat spaces very, very easily, very, very cost effectively, and very environmentally friendly. We don't necessarily need to be. You don't need a 10 or 20 ton excavator dedicated, or its power system dedicated to keeping the arse of an operator warm. That's not what it's for. And as I say, set against the well-being of 7 billion people, plus all of the homeless polar bears as well. Really? Is that the best we could do? Jim Turner says, if I win the lottery, hooding is right at the top end of the shopping list. The expensive end of the shopping list as well. Well, if it lasts 14 hours, think using heaters, GPS, and in heavy work conditions. We don't need 14 hours. We just need to change our mindset. I find it, and I'm not a green activist by any means, but I find it so difficult to get my head around this desire for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours of battery life. It's not necessary. Look at the stats. As I say, a lot of you guys are on site. Have a look around. There's chances are there's a site dumper or a telehandler, and for most of the day that will not turn a wheel in anger. Somebody might pick it up and drive it a bit, and then it will stop, and maybe the engine will be left running or whatever. If that's an electric, no emissions, no energy consumption, all the time it's idle. There is none of that whatsoever. And there's another point, speaking to a guy about equipment rental and the multidisciplines that we have on site. And this all kind of leads into the same thing. So imagine you've got 4 or 5 different companies. You've got your ground workers, but you've also got piling contractors, maybe demolition are there as well. So as it stands at the moment, if each of those disciplines or each of those companies needs access to, let's say, an excavator or a telehandler, they either have to buy their own or they have to rent their own. How ridiculously short-sighted is that? Wouldn't it be better, and bearing in mind we could do all of this using technology, wouldn't it be better to have a site telehandler or a site excavator, and you use some kind of keypad? So, if the demolition contractor starts up the telehandler, they are charged for their usage of that telehandler. Then they park it up, and maybe the piling contractor has a few bits and pieces to move about, so they put their system, or they put their details into the system, and they are then charged for the next hour or so because they are using that machine. And then at the end of the day, the ground worker gets to tidy up a little bit. They put in their details, and they are charged for their usage. Is that not a better way of using that machine? Just saying. Dad is on his way out the door. Have a good day. Yeah, stay safe. Yeah, everybody do precisely that. We're currently at the mercy of the Chinese regarding all electric products due to their monopoly of the battery unit. The same cannot be said of hydrogen. Again, Does that matter? Listen, I feel awfully uncomfortable with that, and I realise we are potentially going to be held to ransom by the Chinese, not just through battery technology, but also through their investment in things like Hinkley and all of those kind of things. But can we? I don't want to save the. I don't want to save the polar bears. I don't want to save Venice from flooding. I don't want to save the Netherlands from flooding because I'm a bit sketchy about the Chinese. Is that really a valid argument? I do need to share this because I didn't get to see this, but Steve says, I posted about the new SVAB joysticks come with heated grips, and the comments from UK people bad-mouthing, saying they're shite now. More money now. But we all bloody want the gadgets. Car has heated steering wheel, seat, sat-nav, self-braking, lane assist. God, it boils my piss. Yeah, it does. It does. What? Bearing in mind, I don't actually have a heated steering wheel. I had one in the past. Don't have one in the car at the moment. You get in a car on a cold day. Why not? Why not put a bit of heat through it? It will never end. Bigger batteries, more weight, unfortunately. Which is why I think the focus should be on the smaller end of things. I think the same down America is not going to follow the UK. Look at their trucks and all things power. Does that... Americans shoot each other on a regular basis. Americans shoot school children. We don't. And we're better for it. Show some leadership. Don't have guns on the street. Don't allow guns anywhere near schools. And then you've got a nation that's better. Surely. Leadership would be not importing steel and machinery from the worst polluting countries. I agree. I mean, all I would say about that is maybe we start to redress the balance once this anti-dumping thing has found its way. Maybe that starts to redress the balance. But honestly, I mean, nobody in their right mind would ever allow me to go and start a demolition company, a plant hire company, a groundworking company. Nobody would do that because I'm an idiot. But if I were to do those things, I would definitely be looking at electric, not because I'm a green environmentalist, but because it's a differentiator. If everybody's running the same equipment, using the same power units, the same transmissions, the same components, there is nothing to set them apart. If you are running an all-electric or mostly electric fleet, you are different. You are unique, particularly at the moment. Create a dyno from the return flow of the hydraulics to charge while using the machine. Just a thought. I think there is a degree of that actually happening, certainly within the hybrid machines as well. I do need to get back to the show in a minute, but with so much to say. Bulk mode shifts can never be wholly productive if you do not maximize time for the operator's bums on seats. But is that not a mindset shift? Now, I mean... Okay, so I agree, Mick. Mick, I agree 100% with what you've just said. But as an industry, we all accept the fact that there is a muck shifting season. Nobody wants to do muck shifting when it's pissing with rain and sites are a bog. So we try to avoid that wherever possible. That means that there is a period of unproductivity. Is that a word? There is a period of the year in which we are not, as an industry, productive. Could we not adopt the same mindset when it comes to day-to-day working? Yes, the site is going to be open for 10 hours a day, but we just have to accept that either it's only going to be productive for 9 of those 10, or the site remains open for 11 hours and we have an hour charging time in the middle of it. Is that much of a mindset shift? Steve says, I'm going hybrid in the next month or so. New car. Fantastic. Can't wait to see that. Mick Norton, what about the recent research that claims that excessively weighty EVs are a major cause of our pothole problems? Pothole problems, car park destruction? Yeah, they are a major concern. But again, listen, electric is not an entire answer. Not an entire answer. It really isn't. But here's the thing. If we are going to redesign our very landscape to be more sustainable, to decarbonize, what say we go back and have a look at how we build our roads and build them with heavier vehicles in mind? What say we go back, next time we build a car park, we don't build it based on cars that weigh 750 kilos, which is how a lot of our existing car park stock were built. And we just agree amongst ourselves that a car is now going to be 2 tons and we'll have to build it accordingly. How about we do that? It's not hard. Mick says the crux of it all is what Jim just wrote. If we in this country want a greener land, then no way does any government want to have steelworks or any heavy industry pumping out sod knows what. We have lost the power of heavy industries in which we led politicians too scared to realise this openly. That throws up another... I promise I am going to show you some more stuff in a moment. That throws up a whole different argument. One of the things I was particularly impressed with the Intermat show was that the organisers actually went out to local and national governments right across Europe to say, we are going to be doing this thing over here. You should come and have a look and see what the very latest is. To the point where there was actually a conference in which I think it was like the deputy president or deputy prime minister or whatever of Ukraine was actually part of a presentation on rebuilding Ukraine. I realise the conflict isn't open, but there is already a focus on rebuilding. But I personally don't think we should be waiting for governments to make their decision. Bearing in mind, it's only a couple of weeks ago that the UK government got around to ending its consultation on future fuels. Do we really want to wait for them to go into their little huddles and to come back with suggested legislation that then gets amended, then gets amended again, and then gets introduced but not policed, and then it gets policed but not in a full way? Do we really want to stand by and wait for all of that, or do we want to make a leap? Steve says, I say 1 to 2 years electric or something, the same will be in full swing. I totally agree. Wolfelder, electric vehicles are horribly expensive, but yes, they are. 1.7, 1.8 times the cost of a diesel equivalent. But set your yard up properly, get yourself a bit of solar power, which is not particularly hard to do. You've got free power for the rest of that machine's life. Just saying. Hoodig, we're not at Intermat. Thank you. I did think, bear with me. Somebody's trying to phone me in the middle of the show. Mick Norton says, how on earth can we save the planet by the advancement of the UV if you have to extract thousands of tons of material to produce minimal quantities of lithium from third world countries? All valid arguments, precisely the same argument as you've got an electric machine, but you're using a coal-fired or a fossil fuel power station to fuel it. But something has to give, people. I see the screens that were in the little electric Bobcat forklift with a thing coming in the near future. Less screens in the machine, everything you need on the windscreen. I sincerely hope that is the case. Of all the tech that I saw at Intermat, that was one of the best. And I know Mick Norton has his reservations about the idea of being able to see through the boom, and does that encourage people to actually drive with the boom in a raised position? I take on board all of that, and you can thrash that out, Mick, when you speak to Dennis Agnew at Bobcat. But all of that aside, that tech is the way forward, no question about it. End of the day, it will happen whether we like it or not. They're not going to go electric because a driver gets cold. They aren't not going to go electric because a driver gets cold. People think it's shit. It's happening. It is happening. I don't know why we are still sitting on the fence debating this. It is happening. Nick says, in the words of the Scotsman in Dad's army, we are doomed. Doomed, I say. This country is screwed, I'm going to go with, and we all know it. But on a better note, the sun is out and the hound is lying on the balcony and the pub opens soon. Does he? Have I been going that long? Good Lord. Steve says, If your electric machine is holding a manhole ring or anything and you're waiting, it's not using charge. Diesel, you don't turn off the machine. How many times a day are you idling? Loading, dumping, sitting with a bucket in the air for the next dumper, you're burning coal. Electric, you're switched off, add it up all day, and you probably would get a full day charge. Put Steve Williamson in charge of the electric revolution, because that is precisely the point. You think about all the times. I'm going to take one of those as an example. You imagine, and I realise electric is not necessarily for that application, as we've already discussed. It's more at the smaller end. But imagine you've got a quarry and you've got an excavator and you've got a fleet of dump trucks. How many times is that excavator sat there? That's me being an excavator. Just sat there, boom in the air, bucket fully loaded, waiting for the next truck to arrive. And then that truck goes away and you sat there again. That truck goes away, you sat there again. And all of that time, you're burning nothing. Nothing at all. What I'd say, get a solar panel on the roof. I'm not entirely sure that's enough, but it's headed that way, I would think. The thing's not there yet is how we charge and how we store hydrogen. Yet we haven't figured that out. We are putting all our faith in something that hasn't been proved yet. Tell you what, I'm going to come back to this because otherwise this show is going to go on for about 57 days. So we've done Komatsu, haven't we? Yes, we have. So let me. I'm going to interrupt myself here. And I realise I'm on a bit of a rant, but I'm going to interrupt myself because I'm going to play you a bit of this. I know we've been a bit sidetracked by it, but decarbonisation was just one of the two key pillars of Intermat 2024. The other area of specific focus was digitisation and how technology can make us all smarter, safer, more productive. They're talking about technology like this.
Today we're here at LiuGong quarry in Brittany. It's Brittany's largest quarry and belongs to Groupe Vision. This is a 128 hectare site with an annual production of 1.8 million tonnes. This site produces a range of construction materials for both public works as well as industrial applications like concrete plants, asphalt, as well as precast plants. Now we're here to really talk about VisionLink productivity. It's a tool that Groupe Vision have introduced to really help maximize productivity on the site. VisionLink Productivity is a cloud-based platform that allows you to monitor, analyze, and ultimately manage your assets to maximize production on site. You can monitor a range of different parameters, including payload, cycle times, as well as different zones or shifts. Now, this was an important aspect of introducing this product to site here with Groupe Vision because they were interested in understanding different shift performances. So what they did was leverage the shift comparison report that's available in VisionLink Productivity so they could understand and ultimately improve the overall productivity of the different shifts that run here on site. Another really important aspect of the tool was being able to manage and understand material movement on site. So by assigning different zones for the different material that it's moved, it allowed them to understand the overall productivity of the site and ultimately what they were trying to achieve for their productivity targets. So whatever your productivity goals, VisionLink Productivity provides you the data and insights to both track and manage your progress. So you might just be starting out and you could focus on something like long idle events on site. This could be where you identify when a machine is idling for a long time, which could be bunching at the loading tool or at the crusher. Identify that, focus on the root cause and implement actions to improve that operations. If you're interested in getting started with VisionLink Productivity, reach out to your local CAT dealer or visit cat.com for more information.
Yeah, Steve Williamson just said, I like how he pronounces it. Yeah, pigeon. Sheercore, Ian. I think that is probably Ian Lewandowski. Good morning, Ian. Very early in the morning, I would imagine, where you are over in the States. But good morning to you, my friend. Long time no see. Hope you're fitting well. On the subject of pronunciation, we went to we needed to see a specific person over on the Komatsu stand at Intermat last week, and I walked on the stand with my South London accent, and I said to a lovely French lady, my name's Mark Anthony, and I'm here with Diggers and Dozers," and she went digger. So I showed her Fred's hat, which has got Diggers and Dozers on it. And she phoned one of her colleagues and said, "Mark Anthony of Diggers and Dozers is here." Never have Diggers and Dozers sounded sexier. Have to be honest. Lots and lots of things going through the chat here. There's a key one. UK hate change. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? They really do. So much here that let's have a look. Yeah, again, I am going to make Steve the unofficial ambassador for all things electric. So, all the Chinese, they've got a finger in the pie at the Hinkley Point C construction, and they own half the world, more than half the world's lithium, and they are going to upset Mr. Musk by taking over the electric vehicle business. I take all of that on board. Mostly Chinese built. Wouldn't be without it. And I'm going to throw over. There you are. Steve says, Chinese make loads of stuff. How do you think we can use mobile phones? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I picked up, I showed you, I can't actually reach them where they are. I picked up last week a new pair of Bobcat trainers, very kindly donated by the fine folks at Bobcat. But, I wear clothing. You can see I'm wearing clothing. I'm not entirely sure where I got this sweatshirt, but did this come from China? Quite possibly. Did I have a problem with it? Nope. I wanted a pale blue sweatshirt, so I bought it. Simple as that. All of this smacks of excuses to me. Mick Norton says, I live close to the biggest house building in the M62 corridor. Virtually every site, 10 times contractors, can be more efficient with better planning by ridding themselves of the site dumpers, cherry pickers, telescopic handlers, agricultural tractors, and replace them with one self-erect tower crane, electric, for all applications. Yeah, why is it you go to literally hop across the channel to France, to Germany, to Belgium, to the Netherlands, to Italy, to Spain, self-erecting cranes everywhere, absolutely everywhere. They take care of all the materials handling on the site. We don't, because we have a tradition of backhoe loaders and mini excavators and site dumpers and all the things. Why? Because of our refusal to change our mindset. Speaking of mindset, there we are. My UK mindset, again, we are so behind. One of the reasons I hate the UK mindset, yet you and me both. Dan Cullen is saying, just seen a deeper construction recession predicted. Dan, let me know where you heard that. The weight of a truck on the road is far heavier than an electric car. Again, just another excuse. I have to agree. Steve also says, where do you think our diamonds come from? For the wife's jewellery, where do you think the clothing's made? All mostly in third world countries. Again, another excuse. He's on the money today. Absolutely no question about it. Don't you think the governments of the world wanted us using electric cars and excavators? We would be by now. It's coming. It is coming. I mean, bearing in mind, we've got our ULEZ in London, which is basically angling us all. Sadiq Khan hasn't actually said as much, but let's be absolutely honest, he is angling us all towards electric vehicles, or you will be penalised heavily. If you want to drive in London in a diesel car or a petrol car in years to come, you will be penalised for it. So read between the lines, electric. London is not unique in having an ultra-low emission zone. Exactly the same rules apply for excavators. If you are operating equipment within the London ultra-low emission zone, you are expected to have a machine that is as clean as the proverbial whistle. And by literally taking the current goalposts and shifting slightly, that ultra clean becomes ultra electric. We're headed that way. Make no mistake. Mick Soder says, or Mick Wright says, a good point, Steve. How many times have we been sitting on a pile to get the mind busy? We start to clean the pile up, scratching about. All of which is fine. It's all a good argument. But we've also, again, we are humans and we are able to change. Think about how an operator or an excavator 10, 15, 20 years would have operated a machine. They'd have jumped behind the controls, they'd have cranked the revs way, way up, black smoke as far as the eye could see, and they would go balls to the wall, using as much fuel as they possibly could. But because we now have a better understanding, because we have better training, because we have technology within the cabs, we know that we can ease that back, use a bit less fuel, and gamification, so competition between operators to use less fuel. All of that exists now. Why would that be any different? Why can we not say to the operator, when you're not working, sit back, do your paperwork, do something else, do your knitting if necessary, because all the time you're not working, you're not using juice. And to back that up, here comes Steve Williamson, who says, I'm holding a cable reel for them to reel out. Takes about 10 minutes to then move to the next location. Done that 5 times today. Adds to 50 minutes of burning fuel idling. Electric, you're off. That's 50 minutes already today. I would not have used the battery. So there you are. Just because of the way that job is going, Steve Williamson, and where are we? It's 11 o'clock. Just gone. Chances are he has been working since, let's say, 7. So in 4 hours, he's saved an hour already. So where does this 9, 10, 12 hours come from? No idea. Peter McKenna, morning, folks. I'm at a hospital appointment, so unfortunately can't partake. As usual, hope everyone has a great day. More importantly, I hope you have a good day, Peter. Good luck with your hospital appointment. Steve Williams says, I asked about the trainers only for customers. Now, I do need to discuss this with my son and heir, but he was very busy while we were in France. I was busy because I was doing a live show, but he was even busier still. So when I was presented with my Bobcat trainers, which are a size 8, because that's what size I am, I tried them on. Perfect fit. Happy days. Fred, however, did not have time to do that. He packed his size 9s, stuck them in his case. We headed home. He tried them on yesterday. Too tight. So I'm going to speak to my son and heir, because there may well be a pair of very fancy, very smart, very limited edition Bobcat trainers up for grabs. If you are a kind of a size 9 but with a slightly narrower foot, perhaps, I've tried them on. As a size 8, they're way too big for me, but he's got quite a wide foot. So if you're a size 9, let me know. Maybe doing something like that. Germany, all you see is pop-up cranes. Makes sense. Here, no. That is change. It's change and it's progress. Remember, Gary, UK is way behind everywhere else. Full electric won't happen overnight. No, it won't. It won't. But I can't help but think those that make the jump first are those that will win first. If you could set yourself up, and maybe there's a gap for that. Maybe this is not down to, what are they called? Used to be A-Plant. Sunbelt. Maybe this is not down to Sunbelt. Maybe it's not down to Lynch or to Flannery or one of the majors. Maybe somebody comes along and forms Electric Rental UK, and they specialise in electric. So when the government or somebody says move over diesel because electric's coming through, then maybe, just maybe, they will make a killing. Mayor Carl is the biggest reason not to go electric. Yes, hard not to argue with that. Gary Muirhead, I still think we should be retrofitting the equipment we already have with battery packs, electric motors, rather than producing new equipment. Yeah, well, in actual fact, we'll be showing you this in the not too distant future. Remember we featured Moog Construction. They do the interchangeable battery, so you can replace your diesel with an electric solution. Well, they've got 2 divisions, one of which is that's the, trying to remember what they call Z-Quip. That's that side of it, but they've also got the other side where they are providing electric machine solutions for the OEMs. that part of the business actually won a Gold Innovation Award at Intermat. So, Gary, you're not the only person thinking in that way. Steve Williamson says, if you're a good operator, you take from the pile in a specific way. Some operators just dig wherever, just make a mess, set up correctly and load correctly. You won't have to scratch about, and you won't have to keep working either. Mick is off out with the Hound for a liquid lunch. Have fun. Give my best to the Hound. Size 9, narrow foot. I am. Steve Williamson sounding a bit like Yoda there. Size 9, narrow foot. I am. But I'll have a word with Fred, just to make sure. He tried them on yesterday with the socks that he was wearing. Maybe he was wearing thick socks. If that's the case, maybe thinner socks might do it, but I'll keep you posted. Construction News report is analysis by the CPA, a decline by 2.2% after a previous forecast of 0.3%. Oh, God. Mick Norton, no Bobcat trainers for footy. No, I don't think they even make them in a size 17. I still think we should be retrofitting. No, I've covered that. We are getting very close to the end of the show, and I do need to show you some other bits and pieces. What else do I've got to show you? I've done the cat thing, so back with one more film.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
How are we at an hour and a quarter? We haven't even played the final film. No idea. So we've already seen how Komatsu has developed its range of electric machines. We've also seen how Volvo may use hydrogen in the future to produce the electricity required to power its prototype ADT. And now it is time to check out the latest electric offering from the fine folks at LiuGong.
Hello, I'm Harry Mellor, and I'm European Product Director at LiuGong Machinery, and we're here with our compact electric mini excavator, the 9027 FD. Powered by a 20 kilowatt lithium-ion battery, this machine can work for around 3 to 4 hours, even with different attachments, making it great for indoor demolition for utilities and municipality companies. So come down and let's see how we can make the job site quieter and the job site safer, cleaner and greener.
Yes, there you are. There you are. LiuGong, they're already in the electric mix, but even more so now. James Howard has just said, diesel dye, can you buy it for your company, making it easy to spot? You can, yeah, it's available. It's available commercially. You can use it within plant, but you can use it in vehicles as well. The only issue with it is, and it's not an issue because that's just the way it is, it is used to identify recovered diesel. It will it's designed to be a deterrent to stop people thinking about nicking your diesel because your diesel is traceable. But if it is subsequently stolen and the police happen to find where it's been put to, they can test the colour and they can trace it back to its point of origin, which is probably you. So yes, diesel dye, ideally it is a deterrent, but it also helps in the tracing as well. And yes, commercially available, not a problem at all. Right, people, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show, which is ridiculously long. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat, or even though I've already addressed most of the chat. If you can't stick around for that, then please do stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, friends, and your colleagues. And I'll see you again at some point in the very near future. But if you do have the time and the inclination, do please stick around, because I would very much like to speak to you some more. I'll be back with the Craic immediately after this word from our key show sponsor. I am going to put the music on. Bear with me 1 second. I've just completely lost my place. Let's go with this. Yeah, turn that right down. James Howard has just said, LiuGong, what a great machine. That would last all day at a runtime of 4 hours if you take the rest time. Yeah. Also, how quickly will it charge? I don't have a specific charge time. My guess is that's an hour and a half or thereabouts. But if you've got 4 hours, 4 hours would take you to lunchtime, even if you were working flat out. Take an hour for lunch, fully charged, back to work. So, but again, and again, going back to this electric argument, that's not when people are saying it's an hour or an hour and a half to charge. That is based; those figures are based on a completely depleted battery. I had this discussion with Volvo not so long ago. So if you're using that LiuGong mini excavator, doing a bit, idling between times. So by the time lunchtime rolls around, the chances are, rather than having used all 4 hours of your allotted battery time, you may have used an hour, 2 hours, possibly 3 hours, possibly less. So rather than taking an hour to charge to full, it may take 40 minutes. Because you've still got some charge in the battery. It's a set of maths that it's out there. Speak to LiuGong, speak to JCB, to Volvo, to Komatsu, to Caterpillar, Hitachi. Everybody that makes electric machines has these calculations readily available. Have a look, because it makes an awful lot more sense than most people are implying that it does. So much talking. That's why, I can go on a bit, can't I? We plug in our home for 10 minutes, sometimes just so you can use it for an hour if getting low in the battery. Again, an excuse, charge time. Not, he meant his phone. Look, my phone is on charge at the moment. I got up at 6 o'clock this morning. It was pretty much fully charged at that point. But I put it back on charge, and it's just sitting there ticking over. As soon as this show is over, I've got some phone calls to make, and then I'll start to deplete the battery. But all the time that phone is sat there, it's on charge, and even when I've unplugged it, it's not depleting the battery at all, because it's just sat there. Precisely like an electric wheel loader, an electric dumper, an electric mini excavator. All of these things, all of those things that are currently sat on a site near you, chugging in the background because people can't be asked to restart a diesel machine. They are currently going through fuel like it's going out of fashion, which frankly it is. That's a whole other story. If that were an electric machine, you walk away, that machine is consuming nothing at all. Which is another reason why you don't need a full charge, or you don't need 10 hours or 12 hours of operating time. It's just not necessary. My music appears to have gone away. It's back. Good. I'm not going to go right the way back through the chat, but I am going to. I'll tell you what. I'll go back to the beginning. Our friend Dan was late this morning. Very late. It was a minute before the show started. Not the usual 2 hours. There he is on a new job today. Jim Turner is here. Mick is here. Gary Muirhead is here. Mark Whiting's here. Very, very quickly, Steve says, morning all, back to work, 10 o'clock last night, got home from Intermat up at 5 for work today. Can I just say, and I'm not blowing smoke up his rear end, oh boy, what a job Steve did over in Intermat 2024. Obviously, he's a mate and he's a friend of the show, and we like Steve anyway. But when Steve gets behind the wheel, or the levers rather, of a machine at a live show like that, it's a bit like Tom Jones taking to the stage. And I'm not taking the mickey here. It's the consummate professional playing to the crowd. You know, he was teasing children with sweets and goodie bags and hats and that kind of thing. He was, you know, even experienced operators were impressed by, you know, some of the angles he was digging at and, you know, moving bits and pieces around. An absolute consummate showman. Steve, I tip my hat to you, sir. You did a fantastic job. You can absolutely 100% see why Kinsoffer keep going back for some more. Can't wait to see you doing the same thing again at Balmer. Hopefully this time with your sidekick. It is good to be back. As I say, it was very nice last week. Obviously surrounded by plant, which is fantastic. I was clocking about 17,000 steps a day, so all good for my health. Calves are feeling it a little bit now, but also good to hang out with some publishing types. I'd forgotten what publishing was all about. Wouldn't go back, but very interesting to see the likes of Mike Wolf doing their thing. You know, how they interact with their audience and what have you. markedly different to what I do. Very much chalk and cheese, but yeah, it was fantastic. I think there was probably 6 people from Route 1 Publishing. They were in one part of the aircraft hangar. I was in another part, but we were having breakfast together every morning and sharing an office. It's good fun. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Absolutely brilliant. And I've already heaped praise on Steve Williamson, mainly because I saw it, but by all accounts, Gary Muirhead, no great surprise, Gary Muirhead did exactly the same thing for a steel wrist. Gary, I sincerely hope that you get a repeat call from the fine folks at Steel Wrist. I'm really, really pleased that they took such great care of you. I'm not surprised by that, because that's the Steel Wrist way, much the way as it's the SMT way. Not surprised by that at all, but very, very glad that they did. So enjoy. I hope you enjoyed basking in the glory, but also I hope you enjoy your goodie bag as well. Going back to this notion of influence, the people we have on the show, I mentioned this at the top. If you weren't here at the top of the show, I will tell you again now. We've got Steve Williamson working and representing Kinsoffer. We've got Gary Muirhead working with and representing Steel Wrist. We've got Jim Turner, who is in discussions with a major UK manufacturer about how to improve their products. And I'm in the process of putting Mick Norton in touch with Dennis Agnew over at Bobcat to talk about all things telescopic handler safety. Compare that to those that describe themselves as influencers. Where is their influence? Dancing in front of a digger? Posing with a dog on your lap? Not really. Whereas people that we've got here are genuinely influencing the market, particularly the likes of Jim and Mick. Very much behind the scenes, not up front, not doing all the razzmatazz, but actually working with manufacturers and advising. That's proper influence. And I've already said I'm going to have a bit of a cull of influencers on my various social media feeds. If you make it, if I'm still speaking to you afterwards, and if you're watching this show, chances are I will be. But if you make it through that cull, then obviously I hold you in higher regard than those what just photograph their breakfast or moan about their travel woes. We all know who they are. Dan says, met Stephen Guthrie as well. Fantastic day. Unfortunately, spent 10 hours on the train. Yeah. Scott Plant is a bloody long way away, isn't it? I say that, having been to France, but he's a long way away. Question of the day, which we never got back to the point where I may even have to do it again. What was your favourite childhood cartoon? Wolfwelder says Looney Tunes. Dan Cullen is in agreement. He also says Looney Tunes. Steve Williamson is more with me. Question of the day, Tom and Jerry or the Roadrunner. Roadrunner, absolutely. Yeah, I was a huge Tom and Jerry fan. I am to this day, actually. Liked a bit of Scooby-Doo as well. Always liked a bit of Scooby-Doo, although there were 1 or 2 Scooby-Doo episodes, very early doors, so I'd have been quite young. Honest, I'd have been quite young. I actually found them too scary to watch. There was one about an ice monster or something. Even to this day, I wouldn't say I wouldn't watch it because, it is a cartoon and I am a grown adult, but gave me the willies back in the day. Roadrunner, yeah, absolutely. Gary Muirhead is saying exactly the same. Tom and Jerry, classic. Has to be the originals, though. They updated them so Tom and Jerry looked slightly different, and then they updated it even further to the point where there was no slapstick violence, like a bit of slapstick violence, no violence, and they were friends. What's the point of that? Never got it. Never got that at all. Footy says Deputy Dog, Wacky Races, Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry. Yeah, absolutely. A few more, but the ones... Oh, the Dragon. Not sure what that is about, but Scooby-Doo. Yeah, Wacky Races. Remember Wacky Races? Does anyone remember Wacky Races? Chris Ford, Captain Pugwash. Who could forget Master Bates, the first one? Can you believe they get away with that? Followed by Deputy Dog, then the proper Tom and Jerry cartoons, Scooby-Doo in the 70s. Later on in life, South Park, The Simpsons, and Family Guy. Yeah, all of which are absolutely fantastic. Another shout out from Jonathan Duras, who also goes for Tom and Jerry and Roadrunner. I do need to check that out. I'll get Fred on the case. I don't know. 200 stars. That as far as I know, that could be £200. That could be 20 pence. I've honestly no idea what that equates to, but I'm going to go and have a look. I'll let you know. Mick says, still got to be 4 feather falls. Okay, so they were puppets, but still good fun. I have no recollection of 4 feather falls whatsoever. Does anyone remember a TV show called Follyfoot? Heard the theme to it the other day. I'd completely forgotten about it, but heard the theme. Let's have a look. Yeah, if you'd like to know more about the collapse of Dutchy Demolition, go and take a look at Demolition News. As far as I'm aware, once again, we are the only people covering it because the rest of the demolition press are shit. Let's be absolutely honest about it. They are shit. They are rubbish. They're not journalists. They're rubbish. They're not worth a light. Have nothing to do with them, I say. Komatsu, fantastic booth at Intermat. They really did. I don't know if you got in there, Steve, but Komatsu had a shop. I didn't buy anything. I was very, very good. I didn't buy anything, but I could have spent an absolute fortune in there because not only did they do, I mean, obviously everything was Komatsu branded, but some of the stuff they had in there, there was like a headlamp, Komatsu branded, quite fancied one of those, but there were bags, like briefcase bags and toiletry bags and that kind of thing. Could have spent a fortune. Incidentally, speaking of such things, I didn't get much. I didn't get much in the way of merch. Obviously, I got my Bobcat trainers, but I also got a Bobcat hat. Can you see that? I don't know if you can, but that front of that hat feels like a teddy bear. And I don't know why that impresses me, but I have to say I'm very, very fond of that. It's probably a bit heavy duty for this time of year, but when the winter rolls around, that will be on my noggin, trust me. Footy is saying, Captain Pugwash, Cat Stevens signs, and yes, Master Bates. Lots and lots about electric. And there is Steve saying about the Sani show. I didn't get to see the Sani show, so if you would be so kind as to send that would be fantastic. Dan Demo is just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Loads and loads and loads on electric. I do wonder if the time is coming where we do actually need to have an all-electric show. I know we've done one in the past, but maybe we'll do another one because there was lots of electric to talk about. And just on that subject, and I've just mentioned Bobcat as well, I'm going to be dropping a line today to my mate VJ Nerva over at Bobcat. I think he may well be the only person in this industry with the job title Innovation Accelerator. And he is... I get to meet lots of people, and I would honestly say, hand on heart, that he is one of the 2 smartest people I've met in the last decade. He's ex-Microsoft. He's now working for Bobcat, and he is one smart cookie. I can't think of a polite way of saying it. He is. I feel like a complete pillock beside him. I feel like a complete pillock most of the time, but he really is one smart guy. So I'll be dropping him a line today to try and get a date in the diary to do a live show with him one evening. Let's have a look. I bought the same one and a grey one. Bobcat. That's the Bobcat hats that Steve's talking about there. Yes, Chris Full does remember Follyfoot theme. Lightning Tree by the Settlers. Yeah. Very sort of folky, but very good. Best comment I had from Fred's Rid was, you're a proper machine operator, making a near 20-ton duck dance about like it's nothing, balancing on 2 wheels and throwing things about like it's a mini machine. Yeah, listen, I am enormously proud of Fred. I think I personally believe he is the best videographer in the business. I really do. But he can only film what's in front of him, and Steve did a fantastic job. There's one bit of that video, if you haven't seen it, go and have a look over on our YouTube channel. There's one bit of it where between Fred and Steve was working his mini excavator with forks, and between the 2 of them, they came up with the idea of putting a magnet-mounted camera on the forks. So the forks come towards the camera, Fred plonks the camera on the forks, and then the forks go up and spin around. Best shot I've seen so far from the show. Absolutely fantastic. Jim Turner says, as far as having my two penneth with the manufacturers, it's just the rambling of a lifetime of being around machines and work they do. But joking aside, I do have a head full of ideas how machines and attachments could be so much more efficient. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. I listen, I would like nothing more than for the major manufacturers and some of the smaller ones to reach out to our audience, like these guys. Speak to them. They have got endless experience. They are at the very sharp end of the industry. Ivor Dragon and his engine. He was a train driver. Ivor the engine. I think we're talking about. And Casey Jones. You remember Casey Jones? Not a cartoon, but do remember that. Question of the day. Mick Norton says, Tom and Jerry, the Cat Concerto. Classic. Absolute classic. There was a mention of Hillhead. There is a mention of Hillhead. Hillhead obviously is but 2 months away. We'll be there, and I know a few other of our type will be there as well. Steve, are you up for Hillhead? I may be able to go. I'll see shortly. Well, I'll certainly be there. I'm currently booked for the first 2 days. Hoping that's going to be enough. Purely because I don't want to be away from this show for too long and difficult to broadcast from a hole in the ground. So yes, please. Anybody's going to Hillhead, let me know. Dan Cullen says, sorry, I've never heard of anyone caught by use of the diesel dye. What's the statistics of it? I don't know. I do know that they are diesel is being tested, and I'm certainly back with the system that what are they called? Data tag we're using in fuel not so long ago, and probably still are. I realise I know they had some success. Not entirely sure what the situation is with diesel dye. Where I was, machines were going 9.5 hours straight a day. I'll say it again, electric machines are not the total solution, but in lots of applications, they are 100% the solution. As an example, and here's an example where we're not talking about replacing one with another. The most dangerous, the most labour-intensive bit of the demolition process is the soft strip, basically prepping the interior of the building, stripping out all of the ceiling, the utilities and the services, and the false walls and all of those kind of things. As it stands at the moment, it's all done by manpower. It's men with mattocks and sledgehammers and stuff, and they get crap in their eyes. They cut their hands, they cut their feet. It's a crappy job that really and truly we should have mechanised years ago. But we can't mechanise it because it's indoors, and if you put a machine indoors as it stands today, you'll fill the place with emissions, and the operator will keel over and he will die. Unless that machine happens to be electric, in which case you're taking man out of harm's way, there are no emissions, you're getting the job done in a fraction of the time. Job's a good one. Why are we not considering that? Steel Wrist did mention about joining the team at Hillhead this year. Did they? I hope that's the case. Dan Cullen says, you skipped my comment on Scott Plant, did I? I've got to be honest. I mean, I think we're at about 400 comments, so I'm not going to be able to find it. But if you'd like to post it again, please let me know. Is diesel dye related to demolition? Asking for a friend. Okay, listen, could be. Well done. I think that's very good. Dan Cullen says, a thing I like seeing at Scott Plump's kids enjoying the day in the big machines. I feel the shows should run on a Saturday, family day, to give the kids incentives into construction. 100% agree. And, again, I think Plant Works have done a pretty good job of encouraging young ones into the show, because they do an outreach to local schools, and they set aside part of one day for the children. But Intermat, loads of children, down to, pushchair, toddler type children. Not a problem at all. Saw a few dogs there as well. Not saying that we necessarily need to inspire the next generation of dogs, but yeah, they can make it work. Why is it that we can't? Anyway, people, that's an hour and 36 minutes. Bear in mind, this is my first day back. You know, you'd think you'd be kind enough to ease me back in, but apparently that's not the case. So I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to go and prep tomorrow's show. I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m., bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, or looking like this, quite possibly. So, yes, join me if you can. We've got lots more to show you from Intermat. If you have a moment, pop on over to our YouTube channel, where, as you all know, we now have 100,000 subscribers. But go and have a look, because there's lots more Intermat stuff over there as well. Steve says, Fred got a video of giving a cap to a kid. He was seen running past the camera to get it and made his day. He will have that memory forever. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And I listen, I'm not here as part of the Steve Williamson fan club, even though I am part of the Steve Williamson fan club. But just imagine that child now. I know he ran away with a hat, but he has had a face-to-face encounter with an excavator. He has seen what it can do up close, thanks to Intermat, thanks to Kinsoffer, thanks to Steve Williamson. There is every possibility that kid might go back to school today and say, "You will never believe what I did at the weekend or last week. You will never believe." And that is how it begins. Could that kid that's got the Kinsoffer hat go on to be the next Steve Williamson? I sincerely hope that's the case. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Look after yourselves. It's been a blast. It's been a joy. See you all soon. All the best.